This is a short video about the fertiliser slurry section on pasture base. To find the section to look at fertiliser and slurry applications, you look at the black menu on the left here, and it's the fourth or fifth one down, this one here, fertiliser slurry application. So you click on that. We can see on this farm we're looking at there are already a number of applications already recorded. If we want to record a new application of either slurry or fertiliser or lime, we click on this green button at the top right that says Add New Fertiliser Slurry Application. And this pop-up box comes up with the number of options that we need to select. The first option we need to look at is we need to pick a paddock or a whole range of paddocks that we are going to put the fertiliser on. So you just tick the ones you want to pick. So let's say we're picking 2, 3 and 4, you do it like so. So it tells us then we have 3 selected. We pick the application date, so it can be today's date, or you can work back on the calendar if you want to pick a date previously. Then you pick which fertiliser, slurry or lime you want to spread. So we have a drop down list and you can roll down this list to pick whichever fertiliser or slurry you're using. And then you need to tell the system what the amount of fertiliser you're spreading is. So you put in the total amount here, then you need to tell the computer, are you putting in the total amount, the amount per acre or the amount per hectare? And then a drop down list of units comes up. So we'll see that a little bit better when we work through a few examples. Then the system wants to know, is this application for grass, for silage or for tillage? So you just pick whichever of those options you want. And when you have it all done, you click Save. It's important to note that if the fertiliser you want to use is not already on the drop-down list, you can request a new item to be added by clicking on this button, or alternatively you can email us directly to support@pbi.ie with details of the fertiliser you would like us to add to the list. It's important also to note the disclaimer that's here. It says that this information will not become available for compliance inspection. So any information you put on pasture base about fertiliser, slurry or lime applications will not become available for compliance inspection. Now we'll work through a few examples to show you how this works a little bit better. First of all, we'll untick those. So for the first example, we're just going to use paddock 2. So it tells us we've 1 selected. We're going to put on the fertiliser 10, 10, 20. So we drop down the list and we get to 10, 10, 20 here. And we're going with an amount per hectare. And we're putting 60. And then we're going to tell the system that that's kilos per hectare on the drop down. So 60 kilos per hectare. It's for grass, and we'll click Save. Then we're going to do a second one. This time we're going to pick paddock 3. And we're going to pick an amount per acre this time. We're going to pick 30 kilos per acre of urea. So to find urea, if the list is quite long, so we know it begins with U, we'll just type U on the keyboard and it brings us to the U section. So we'll pick urea. And again from our drop down, kilos. So the fertiliser is urea, the amount per acre, 30 kilos per acre. And again, we'll say it's for grass and Save. Now to show a slurry example, add new fertiliser slurry again. This time we'll pick paddock 4. And again the drop down, pick cattle slurry. Again we'll pick an amount per acre. And we're putting in 2,500, and this time gallons per acre. and for variety we'll say that's for silage, and save. And one more example just to look at a lime application. This time we will pick paddock 5, and on our drop down we have lime. We click that, and amount per hectare this time. So we're going to say 2.5 tons of lime per hectare on this paddock, and for grass, and save. So now we can see on our list for the year, we've the 4 applications we've done today on the 1st of December, one for paddock 2, one for paddock 3, 4 and 5, and the type of fertiliser slurry that was used, the amount, the units. So we can see where we did kilos per hectare, kilos per acre. It is important to note that if you put on a fertiliser application in kilos per acre, Pasture Base will always show the breakdown of NP and K in kilos per hectare, so it will convert it for you. So even though you've opted to put on the units or indicate how you put it on in kilos per acre, it will show you in kilos per hectare the breakdown of the NPK. An important feature that you should have a look at here that might be useful is the filters function. So that's this little yellow box on the top. So if you click on that, show filters, it will enable you to look at fertiliser applications within a particular date range. So you can pick a date range. Let's say you want to pick from the 1st of October until today. So you pick the date range you want, click apply filter. And then it will just, when you roll down the screen, it will only show you the list of applications of fertiliser in the date range from the 1st of October until today. Because this is quite a large farm, there's a few screens, but it ends there, it's about 2.5 screens. So that's the filter function, and it's used throughout Pasture Base and can be quite useful. We'll just go back to the main fertiliser screen now. It is also possible if you've put on an application and you've made a mistake or want to change it in some way, across from the particular application you can choose this edit button. So as this is a live farm and we've put on 4 applications just for demonstration purposes, we're now going to delete them. So the first one, we click the edit button across here and delete this application. And it asks you, are you sure? And we say yes. Same for the second one. If you wanted to change details of an application, you would click the same edit button, but when you've completed making the changes, then you click save and it will update it. You would only use this red delete button at the top left, and you need to be very careful with it. If you wanted to delete all of the Fertiliser records you would have on your Pasture Base account, so be careful with that button. Now we want to draw your attention to if you put in fertiliser applications as you go along throughout the year, there are a number of reports you can look at. So to see them, you roll down to the bottom of the black menu here on Pasture Base, click this button, Fertiliser Reports. So you can see there are 3 possible reports. There's a paddock summary that looks at the total NPK for each paddock and the most recent application. There's a farm summary, looks at totals for the farm, and an application summary. So for our sample farm here, we'll take a look at each of them. So the first one is the paddock summary. So we click on that. And it will bring us up a list of the paddocks in numerical order, the size of the paddock, and the total NPK of all the fertiliser applications for this year added together, and it will also tell us what the most recent application was on that paddock. Again, the filters button can be used here. You can click on show filters and you can look for a date range, and you can also narrow it down to these categories: the type of fertiliser. So there's artificial fertiliser, organic fertiliser, which would be slurry and farmyard manure, or lime. And if you want to do any of them, you pick the range you want, apply filter, and then the list you want comes up. The second report then is the farm summary. So to look at that, we click on that here, click farm summary, and it's a different type of report. So it's showing a summary for each of the fertilisers used on the farm this year so far, the total amount. So we can see this farmer has used 18,612, the total kilos, cattle slurry, the total amount, muriate of potash, sulcan and urea. And again, you can use the show filters button to look at a date range and to look at artificial fertiliser, organic fertiliser or lime. The last fertiliser report is called the application summary, and it looks at the dates of applications in more detail. So you can see on this farm the most recent application was on the 9th of October. A whole range of the paddocks were spread with muriate of potash and so on. Again, you can run the filter on this, and you can run more detailed filters on this. You can look at the reasons, so you could look at just all the fertilisers you spread for silage, grass or tillage. Again, you can look at the type. You can look up all the applications for a particular paddock, all the types of fertiliser and a date range. So to show an example, let's say we just wanted to look at the cattle slurry applications on this farm this year. So we pick cattle slurry and the date range automatically comes up from the 1st of January to today's date. Click on apply filter and it will just show us the list of cattle slurry applications on this farm for this year. Any of the fertiliser reports can be exported to Excel or PDF by clicking on these green buttons. They can be useful for different reasons, and if you want to print a report, if you export it to PDF, then it's possible to print it from there. Just one other thing to show you. Going back to our list of applications for the year, we can see this farmer did a whole range of, a lot of the paddocks were spread with muriate of potash on the 9th of October. So then we just look at his grass wedges around that time. So he has a grass cover on the 18th of October. So we just take a look at that. So we can see here on the 18th of October, each bar on the grass wedge represents one of his paddocks. So on top of each of the bars, a lot of the bars, there's this blue figure 9. So that's telling us that it's 9 days since he has spread fertiliser on each of those paddocks with the blue 9. So we already know he spread a lot of the paddocks on the 9th. So now it's the 18th, so we know that's correct. It's indicating it's 9 days since each of those paddocks were spread with fertiliser. That concludes our video on fertiliser and slurry applications.